everyone, and welcome back to yet another episode of TECHSPIRANTS, a CSI UMIT original podcast where we help you debug real-life problems. We are your hosts for today, and I am Dhruva Kamble, the Co-Chairperson and Chief Editor of CSI UMIT. With me will be hosting the one and only Shikha, Akhouri, the Secretary of CSI UMIT. In today's episode, we will be talking about somebody who has immense experience and has worked for one of the biggest names in tech industries. Shikha, can you give a quick introduction of who our host will be today?
Yeah. Today, CSI UMIT has the privilege to talk to such an experienced alumni. She has work experience of 20 plus years in the IT industry and has worked for the big names of tech. Yes, you heard it right. With starting off her journey in Infosys, she moved to Amazon, worked for a decade over there, and now is at a leading position in world's largest search engine, Google. Yes, her name is Neeru Jain. She is a 2003 pass out from our institute, Usha Mittal Institute of Technology, with her bachelor degree in electronics and communication. Having the same roots, it's our privilege to welcome her on our podcast. I hope that all our viewers enjoy this episode as we enjoyed recording it. Thank you. We have our guest Miss Neeru Jain with us, and she is a UMITian from 2003 batch. She is 20 years older to us. And hello, ma'am. Thank you for taking time out for us. And we would love to know about your journey as an UMITian to joining Google, one of the largest world search engine. So, if you could share your journey with us.
Thank you so much for having me. It just feels surreal to be reconnecting with my alma mater, with my college folks. So I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you so much. It's really great to be here. It's been a while, hasn't it? I think after 2003, ours was the first batch, or was the second batch that graduated from UMIT. And we still managed to get on-campus companies, some recruitment in there. I remember my first job being the one from one of these companies. I don't know if it's still around, Putney Computers.
Okay.
So they had come to the campus. I think it was 10:30 p.m. by the time they declared, who all has made it and who got a job, who didn't. I was on the list. So were a couple of my other friends. I remember boarding the bus back home. My dad said, can I come pick you up? But, Bombay's Bombay. And I felt safe. And I said, no, I'm going to take the bus home. We got home. We live in Vashi. My parents still do. And so I made it home at 11:30. But that started my journey. I didn't stay with Putney too long. Within 3.5 months, I had another offer from Infosys. So I switched. I moved to Infosys. I worked for about a year and a half in India with them. But then after that, I moved to the US and I worked at multiple, we used to have those client locations. You always work for a client when you're working at Infosys or any of the IT service companies. So I worked on the East Coast of the US for a grocery retailer. Then I moved to the West Coast and I worked at the Starbucks corporate office. So that was really cool. You also learned how to brew your own coffee, including the heart that you make on the coffee. My friend's husband used to be a coffee master, so we got a special training from him, and he taught us how to do that. Really good memories of my time at Starbucks. That was also the time we moved to Seattle, which is where we spent the bulk of our time in the US as a family. And around 2009, I would say, is when, I pivoted. I would say the, impetus came for my career. I moved to Amazon. I think that's defining.
I'm so sorry to cut you. But before we move on to Amazon and everything, can you tell us how you shifted from UMIT to the US? Was it work related, or you just decided for the study?
It was all for work. That's a great question. It was all. So I did. I want to mention here because quite a few of you are studying and you may have that option too, right? I did apply for my higher studies to multiple universities in the US. I got through to a few, but I didn't get a lot of scholarship. And I wasn't sure. I think the mistake I made is I didn't talk to too many people. And I think that happens. We were the second batch in the university for engineering, and I didn't make enough connections, or I didn't talk to too many other people from the Bombay University, right? It would have been most natural, and I should have. And maybe that would have built more confidence. I felt like, hey, I have a younger brother. I don't know. Well, my dad, I don't want to put this pressure on my dad, take on this much loan, all of those things. So I didn't back myself enough. I tried to find 100 different reasons, but in the bottom line was I didn't back myself, which is why I didn't go for my MS. I would say if you're at a juncture, if you have an admit from a good university, back yourself, right? Look at the other factors as well. If it's going to be a dire situation, maybe give it a thought, maybe work and then go back, but do it. That would be one sort of a learning moment. If I could do things differently, I would do it, but I didn't. So going back, I work took me to US, right? So I was working for Infosys at all of these places until Starbucks. But when we were in Seattle, I was done working for clients. I wanted a more settled life. We were planning to have a family, and you don't want to keep changing because they move you. Your new client location is blah. So that got me thinking. And then opportunities came up, and that's how I entered Amazon.
That is so inspiring, because it has become a general trend that people after management or people doing masters, they go to the US. It's the general, the stereotype has become that way.
Yeah, I think the stereotype now is that if you want to go abroad, it's only because you have to study for the studies. I don't think there's much knowledge about you can also move to the US while you're working for some company. Yeah. So your story definitely will help people, calculate a little better and make proper decisions about their life as well. Personally, yeah, at least
I am also one of those.
So there are definitely opportunities, that do open up and different companies call it different things. And that there is, if you're working for an IT service company, they'll call it on-site assignments. Yes. And if you are working for like an MNC, they may just move you. If they have an opportunity which they haven't been able to staff, then they may offer, and then you may be able to transfer with a company. For example, I know at Amazon and Google, if you are above a certain level, you do have to work if you're starting out, you do have to work a couple of years, grow with the company, and then become eligible for those transfers. But yes, there is an option to do that. I would just not over-index on the US aspect, right? Like, I just want to call out that the differences between India and US 20 years ago were too stark. That's not the case right now. I do think the higher education is great, but I wouldn't say the opportunities in India are really lesser than the ones in the US. But I won't be surprised if you're excited, you want to move, you want to live and experience different cultures. That's a whole different reason. But think through your options.
Sure.
So how exactly did you move from Infosys to your further
Amazon?
I don't name drop again and again, but yeah, we'll definitely love to know more about it.
It's just so Amazon is just applied to those roles, going through interview process. I don't know how much you've read about the Amazon interview process, but they used to do a phone screen. I remember having a couple of phone screens and making it through. But then so when you make it through, it's a whole day of a grueling sessions. They have like 5 interviews plus a hiring manager, 5 or 6.
Yes.
They're not just grilling you to get more information, they're also trying to evaluate how you do under pressure, right? How you
That's
do
true.
when you're pushed to the wall. Because you'll be, I remember getting into office at 9:30 a.m. And by the time I got done, it was like 5:30 p.m. And you have to be like this. You're interviewing all the time. You do get a lunch with the hiring manager, but the hiring manager is asking you questions. So you try and gobble in a couple of bites in between your answers, but really you're not focused on eating. And all of that is sort of baked into, despite everything, how does the candidate stand up to the challenge, right? Like, how are they responding? Are they like really exhausted, or are they still, standing up tall? So it was
Like
a
I've
very
heard,
interesting day.
like I've heard about the 14 leadership principles that Amazon follows. So like they have that thing, that aspect in all their interviews, whether it be a
Absolutely.
technical interview or a non-technical interview. So
Absolutely.
that is something that they love about, and they want to see their candidates doing it.
I'll tell you that after spending over a decade at Amazon, I am at Google now, but there are those leadership principles that have stuck with me. So, and I'm not, I mean, there are a few of us, who are ex-Amazonians at Google, and we use that language because it stays with you. They're just so sticky and they make so much sense. Bias for action, for example, disagree and commit. The moment we use these terms,
Keep
everyone's
dive.
like, what did that mean? And then you sort of like go into that because it really meant something. We lived it every day. Um, Good times at Amazon. I mean, very, very, rewarding. At the same time, I know there are lots of questions on like work-life balance and everything. I had no issues. I mean, you do need to be balanced in how you approach work and your family. But I had a good 10 years at Amazon.
That is so great to hear. Other than that, I personally studied your LinkedIn profile, and I saw that you work for different verticals at Amazon. So how was the experience different in the different verticals? Like you were there in supply chain management, if I'm not wrong, or something of the management, and then there was payments. So I saw that and I was like, this is totally different domains. Then how was the switch, and how was the journey about the switching?
That's actually a very cool thing, and I want to talk to you guys about it because when I started in Infosys, they told me that you're going to be in the retail domain. I remember
Yeah.
saying, "Oh, I want to work in this also," and they're like, "No, no, you can't change. You have to be with this." And then I started at Amazon. Fast forward a few years, right? I think 7 years I spent in Infi, and then I moved to Amazon. And they said, "We let you change whenever you feel like you're ready for it. You can move teams, you can move verticals, and you can continue learning within the company. That is an amazing opportunity." So I started with something called seller service technologies. Amazon has multiple customers, right? The sellers who list on Amazon to sell their wares. So I worked for them first. Then I wanted to change. I felt like it had been 3 years and I wanted to learn something different, work on something more challenging. I switched to customer service technologies, which is, all of the tools we used in the backend to support our customers, right? So our customer service operators, when you call Amazon or when you're chatting with their operators, they use something called, I won't say what, but they use a tool that's internal. So we built it, right? We built, there were multiple features. Like, so, as a customer, when you call in and say, "Hey, I got this notification," the associate will be able to pull up the notification that you're referring to. Right? They're not going to grill you on the phone saying, "Oh, which one are you talking about? The one that was sent here? Can you tell us more?" No, they'll know. They'll have your customer ID. They'll be able to pull up those details. So all of those things we built. Then I moved on to, where was it? Then I actually worked for HR as well. An opportunity came by. So I worked with, I think she's the current SVP now, Beth Galletti. Fangirl moment, people you meet and experience working with and learn so much from. So I had the good fortune of working with her. So I did that, then payments, then fulfillment systems,
Yes.
back to payments. So yeah, I think it's a very organic setup where you are allowed to change. You can just interview, meet the team, and then go for changes.
Okay. That is something new for me, because everyone has been, stuck in one domain mostly, like the people I have seen, like, but you continued for a decade in one same company and shifted so many verticals. It is very interesting and I want to learn about that.
I personally want to know which is your favorite kind of domain. Like, which
Oh,
did you enjoy the most?
it's very, very difficult to pick one. It's very difficult. So the latest one that I was with, right, like the payments one in India, I own the product and program roadmap for what you see as the Amazon India payments page, right? So when you're on Amazon.in and you come up with a payments page, what are the options you see there? What's the experience that you're going to see? So I that is what I owned. So I think that was extremely interesting. It definitely had that big aura of, oh my God, we own this, and this is something that we're responsible for. But at the same time, working on the HR one, working on the customer services related areas, those have really fond memories and good learnings from there too. So it's very difficult. I have just treasured partnerships with a lot of people over the period of 10 years. I don't want to.
Amazing.
I don't want to pick any
amazing. And one more thing that I would, this curiosity kind of drives me, that you are at a leading position in Google. So how is the work experience at Google? Because every software engineer craves for Google. That is an undenied fact. So how much, like, the time when you did engineering was totally different from what we are doing right now. Like, there is a 20-year age gap as well as the academic gap. So you must have dealt with many freshers, like people in your team. So what are the kind of skills that you expect from a fresher, or you see in the freshers, that we all should know about?
That's a little bit more difficult question. I think the biggest thing that you notice is that, these are all self-starters. They're not dependent just on what you teach or what they teach you in college, right? So a lot of people are doing other things on the side as well. So I'll encourage you to look for opportunities outside and say, what can I do? Like, is there a startup or is there a cause that I can support? Use every opportunity to learn and grow. There is nothing that can, supplement any practical experience. You have to have that. What I see is a lot of these people have gotten that experience. They've been, hands-on. They've been trying to do small contributions, or they're supporting NGOs, for example, or they had their mini startups. They did something. A lot of them did their higher studies. They did their MS. But the bottom line is they're not sitting with just what is taught in the syllabus. They're using their internships, right? So they make sure that their internships are towards where they want to be. And a lot of hires that we get, the grads that we get, are really interns who are offered a role and they're coming back. So not all interns are selected, but a lot of interns who come, who do well, get offered full-time positions. And so, yeah, I think that's the biggest thing. I speak to my family members as well, and I'm like, you're coming here for this special course or this higher education opportunity. You're going to be in Bangalore. You're going to be in Indiranagar. It's the hub for all of the startups. Go to these cafes, pick up on the conversations, try and build your networks. Do that early. Culturally, we are not very good with networking. At least I wasn't, and I know quite a few who don't excel at that. It's a muscle we need to build. So start early, because it's easier to learn when you're older. So do that. I think that'll open up opportunities. You may have to learn how to do it, but don't shy away from that.
I hope that it really helps us in our journey. And like, are there any specific technical skills that you would like see in the freshers, like any particular programming language or any kind of database that is very trending right now that every fresher should know?
I so I mean I wouldn't anchor on that. I mean it depends on what you are super interested in, right? Like big data, for example, is creating waves, right? So if that's something that interests you, then yes, look at that, and then look up the courses that are available on Coursera. There are lots of if machine learning as an area interests you, right? So there's R, there's Python. You can learn, but try and start with the basics and confirm that you're really interested in it. Again, there's a very good course on Stanford .edu, and it's available for free. You should see and confirm that it's something that interests you. Technologies per se, they keep changing, but I think if you just, I would say, use the resource, get on the internet. You guys have like an amazing resource for like what's the internet, right? Things like Quora are available. For folks that are working, we get on Blind, and those apps are always talking about, okay, I have an interview, how do I prep? There are all of these websites that will help you prep for your interviews. Do not walk into an interview without prep. Please do not, right? There are, what is that, Code Ninja. There are a lot of those sites which will help you finesse your coding skills. Do that, right? Like just a certification is not good enough. Like try those things out. Logical thinking. It's often not important, whether or not you arrive at the right answer, but how you approach it. It's very important that even when you're thinking through the solution to a problem, they'll ask you, tell me what you're thinking about. Right? So that clarity of thought needs to come through. But there's nothing that practice cannot do. So practice a lot. Tell yourself, what if this question were to come? How would I approach it? Talk about the parking lot question. How would I solve for this, right? Okay, let me take up a binary tree related question. How would I do this, right? You can learn languages. That's not a problem, right? That's something anyone can learn. And yes, you can look up what's the trending one. You can look it up. But what you have to absolutely practice is, how do I communicate what I'm thinking in a very clear, concise fashion?
When you were in college, did you have any specific interests that you were looking up to? Okay, this is the kind of work that I want to do in future, or were you confused, or like what was your situation back then?
That's a great question. I did. I actually, when we started engineering, the way it looked and everyone was talking about was like, hey, computer science is, it's overhyped, and electronics and telecommunication is going to be the next big thing. So I got that. I was happy. I was like, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to, stick to this line. I think we did our internship. That's when we realized in the third year, you get an option to do an internship or a summer project kind of thing. I think the second half of the third year.
Yes, sixth semester.
That's when the rubber hit the road. We didn't get any options of like, what you're going to, like, hey, we want to do something in this sector. Okay, we don't have any options. There were no opportunities available. So that's when it sort of, it's not like I was averse to programming, but I was like, okay, maybe this is not it, and it's okay to course correct. And so we started looking at, we did network intrusion detection system. That was something we've done, hardened Linux shell and some stuff. There were 4 of us who did it. It was a good experience. And then that's when I sort of reset, that it's going to be software development that I'm going to work with. Will I stay pure software developer or not? I wasn't sure. And so I gradually went into technical program management. So I don't write code anymore, but I look at a 30,000 feet view of, what are the systems we need to build? And so what is the underlying framework, right? Like, so if in larger companies, we have matrixed organizations. So if you look at one page on Amazon website, there will be 50 different teams owning different aspects. So if I have to make a change, say, as a user, I want to be able to do this. All right, 50 teams get on board. Here this one, here that one. And that larger picture, that's on my role council, right? Like I put it together saying, okay, here is what we're going to need to do. So I've sort of matured on or graduated on to that. I'm passionate about that role, and that's where I'm moving for.
That is really good to hear, because from personal experience as well, like personally, I am not very sure of what I want to do. So knowing that you were not as, focused, on a particular thing, and still you were able to achieve so much, it really encourages me to, on a lot, many levels. So, yeah.
I would just say one thing, we did want to do electronics and telecommunications, but we were just sort of course corrected by the realities of what was out there.
I totally agree, because I am also in ENC, so I relate to your situation.
Right? It's one of those things, I can't tell you, it was that wave, yeah, everyone's rushing towards IT and computer science, but really the next big thing is going to be electronics and telecommunication. And it was, there was stuff in newspapers and everything that you could consume. So we really did think that way. It's super exciting. I think 3 years down the line, I think my brother followed suit, and 5 years down the line, he did pursue a career in telecommunications. It worked well for him, but it's not something that was easy to come by, those opportunities. And so, I think it's important to just have that realization as well. Maybe if I had done that, MS that I had decided to not pursue, maybe I would have had better opportunities in the US, right? We didn't have too many in India. And so maybe know your market is a good sort of fundamental to have in place. Like, if you're doing this, are you prepared? Are there opportunities in India? And then go on from there. Prepare yourself.
What is the final piece of advice which you would give to all the UMITians watching this video?
I'll just say this: believe in yourself. You have a great future ahead, but work hard. Never stop learning. Never say this is not my job, right? Like, you get an opportunity, grab it with both hands. It will not come to you. Do not say that I'm not getting a job. You will have to put in 50 applications, of which you'll get probably a few percent, less than 10% calls, of which you will pick, of which you'll get some offers, and then you will get a choice to pick. Do not filter what you're going to get, right? Like, oh, I'm not going to do that. If you're looking for that first break, go for it. Because oftentimes, and this is again, I'm proud of my college and where we had wonderful teachers, but we are not IIT. Yeah, we're not the regional engineering college. So we don't have that shiny badge that we come from this prestigious college. But that only counts for the first one. Get through your first one. Don't fall into any traps of like long-term bonds or anything, but get through. Try and get working. Try and get that exposure and then change. right? And then find your true calling. But just keep working hard. Don't give up. I think early years are really important, so work hard. Then you can try and see, when to pace yourself, slow down when you have a family. All of that is possible. So that's my biggest thing. The second one is, not for you guys, but if you come to it when you're working and all that, work and family together is possible. So if you're anyone is at that point in time where you need counsel, just hit me up. I'd be happy to speak to you. I've had 2 babies at Amazon and everything worked out. So just don't give up on your hopes and plans.
That is so amazing to hear.
Yeah,
Because
we're really
everyone
glad.
fears that work-life balance that after I'll quit my job once I have a kid. But listening to you, I hope that that stereotype breaks of the audience that we shouldn't, think in that way that I'm a girl, so I should quit my job once the family picture comes into the scene. So that's really inspiring.
Thank you so much for having me. It was really nice to be able
Yeah.
to reconnect with everyone at UMIT. So hope to
It
see you guys
was,
in person soon.
our pleasure that you could take time out of your busy schedule and come talk to us. Like, really,
Not
really,
at all.
thank you. Be grateful.
Not at all.
Thank you for joining us and stay tuned for yet another episode of TECHSPIRANTS where we bring you another solution to debug your real life problems.